Oh, so good to see you all too. Thanks for coming today. It's kind of like a reunion and then new people too. So thank you all. Actually, if you, especially those of you who know me and know each other, we're going to use the chat today to ask questions and share information. So if you want to put in the chat where you're coming from and how you're doing today and keep waving to each other. Hi, Jenna. Oh, we're gonna have a crew today. Yay! Welcome, Tiffany. Welcome, Oksana. Welcome, Lenny. Welcome, Dale. Jenna, I'm gonna mute you. Jenna's in Maine. Yeah, follow Jenna's lead. Put where you're coming from and who you are and how you're doing, how your stress levels are. DC, Maine. So funny story before we get started. I stress, one of the things that stresses me out the most is technology. So already, yeah, I was like, yeah, me too. So already being here, I'm like, oh gosh, there's so much to navigate. And I decided today that I was going to use a new teleprompter that was like also in tech, and then a new camera. And I'm here by myself. My husband, Sam, who's my tech guy, was trying to help me do this before he left this morning. And I couldn't figure any of it out. I felt really stressed. So at 11:45 Eastern time, I went to the library to print out my script. So that's how we roll here. Oh, goodness. Okay, we've got Virginia. If you're just tuning in, you can put in the chat a little hello. Let me know where you're coming from. And I think actually we'll get started. I have about the amount of tech I can handle. We have a very concise amount of time today, and we have a really big topic to tackle. So we'll roll right into this. Katie's in LA. Wow, you're in LA now, Katie. Okay, yeah, Chicago, awesome. Denver, good. Okay, so welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Catherine Zach. You made it to the free workshop. Stress is your ultimate point of leverage, and admit all. Like I said, we're going to begin as close to on time as possible today because we have this really precise amount of time. And stress is a big topic. It's an important topic. And it's also a life-saving and a life-giving topic, right? And I know that it is important to you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here today. So I want to thank you for being here today, because in order to say yes to being here, I know that you had to say no to a lot of other things. And that's whether you're watching this live or you're watching the recording. And if my empirical data is correct, 84.2% of us still think in our habituated stress ways that we should be doing something else instead. Anyone else? Anyone else? Like, even if it's something, yeah, everyone's like, yeah, 84.2%. I made that number up, but I know that that's how we often feel. Even if there's something that is really important to us and something we care a lot about, something we think that could be good for us, there's still that kind of autopilot habituated stress response in our brain that says, like, I really should be sending that email. I really should be doing this thing for that deadline. So you made it. Thank you for being here. Even that act is kind of a quiet revolutionary one, because you're going against the grain, right? You're going against the grain of this stressed world by saying, like, I'm going to show up and do something a little bit different today. So thank you. Thank you for showing up exactly as you are. We're going to cover a lot of good ground in our concise amount of time today. And I never wanted to feel rushed. And I never wanted to feel like you're drinking out of the fire hose. So rather than racing right in, we're actually going to build out a bit more of a margin right now as our friends keep filtering into the live workshop. And if you're live, you know that I've already built a margin into our work together today, because we're not starting on the hour. We've started at 10 after the hour. And I love to do that, love to schedule meetings, in this case at 12:10 Eastern time, because so many of us are back to back to back to back, forever multitasking, always busy, showing up with half attention as we race from one thing to the next. And by building in these 10 minutes before we start, I was hoping that you could grab a drink, grab your lunch, maybe take a quick walk around the block, use the restroom, you know, totally normal human being things. And I offer this tactic to you, this scheduling meetings at the 10 after the hour or the quarter after the hour, as a totally free bonus tip. You can use it when you schedule your next meeting. And right now, we'll build in even more of a margin that we will actually rest in, right? We will rest in this margin we are about to create. Wild, radical, right? This tool that I'm about to teach you how to rest in a margin is one that you can use when you're waiting for your colleagues to filter into the next Zoom room, when you're in line at the supermarket, when you're waiting for your kids at the bus stop, when you'd otherwise pick up your device and scroll through it so that you could tune out or turn off, or maybe just do one more thing real quick, right? You know how we do that. You can use this instead. Okay. Yeah. Heather said, I didn't notice the 10-minute start until I tried to join at noon. It was a very exciting moment to realize I suddenly had time to heat up my lunch. Okay. Tiny victories, people. I love that, Heather. Okay. So the tool I'm about to teach you, a school teacher taught it to me, and she called it Starfish Breath. And when I teach it to adults, I call it 5 moments of grace, because who among us could not use 5 more minutes of grace and space? And it goes like this. We're going to practice it together. So you can go ahead. Some of us have done this before. Hold up your non-dominant hand. If you're ambidextrous, amazing. Hold up your, I don't know, second favorite hand. And then take the index finger of your dominant hand and take it right to the base of your thumb knuckle. Yeah, down there. Yep. Okay, good. And then as you take your next breath in, just start to trace your finger up your thumb. And as you start to breathe out, trace your finger down your thumb. It takes practice because we're breathing fast and we're moving fast. So inhale slowly, go up your index finger, and exhale slowly, go down your index finger. That's the basic instruction. You can keep going like this. And why don't you go ahead and just start to take it at your own pace? Right? And you can do this, you can maybe close your eyes and just feel the sensation of touch on your hand. And maybe even feel the breath moving through your body. And notice your tendency to speed up or for your mind to wander. When you get to the bottom of your pinky finger, go back. Yeah, go back. That's right. Keep going. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down, and see if you can deepen your breath so much so that you can actually feel it moving through your body. You might even be able to hear it like a hum. And when you're totally finished, you can rest both hands in your lap. Maybe keep your eyes closed for an extra moment or so. And just notice how you feel. Good, bad, right, or wrong. Just notice how you feel, what your body feels like, what your breath seems like, mind, your mood. And if you want, you can, if you got your pen and paper, you can make notes. If you want, you can use the chat and just share. If you felt anything, you want to put it out there, you have a question about what you experienced with that. Maybe if you could actually see yourself using that tool again, or what you think it did for you, if anything, you can use the chat. I'll sip my tea, rest in my margin. Are you guys doing things like that? Are you doing things like that normally? Or are you like me? And it's like, I'll just do one more thing real quick. right? Like anytime we have a second, right? Constantly trying to fill the margins with one more thing. I'll just keep my eye on the comments for another minute. Anyone have anything to share? It's definitely really grounding to have a physical touch component to breathing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we're working with evidence-based, research-backed tools that actually, in a physiological way, help us shift out of the part of our nervous system, which we're going to talk about today. And most of us spend a lot of time in that fight, flight, or freeze response, down into the kind of rest, relax, recovery zone of our nervous system, using the breath and using touch are actually two ways that we can complete the stress cycle and shift our body out of that fight, flight, or freeze into the more optimal zone of nervous system functioning. So it works. And if you felt that, like, I actually do feel downshifted, that's another tool that I'll offer to you right now. And for those of you that didn't feel that downshift, right? Because we spend so much of our time in that fight, flight, or freeze mode that, like, when we do have a second to just pause, it can feel so unfamiliar. It actually makes us feel almost like worse in the moment because we notice all the things that we never stop long enough to notice. So if you didn't have a great experience, that's totally normal too. Let's see, what did Jenna say? I think the somatic part, yeah, the sensory includes, yeah. And I love this too, because it also helps us practice another skill of mindful stress management, which is just paying attention, right? Focusing, paying attention to one thing at a time, which is not our natural default mode. So like often we have a million thoughts racing through our head at the moment. You do this, it grounds your attention on just the movement of your hands and your breath. And when your mind starts to wander, notice that I didn't say if, when your mind starts to wander, you have a lot to come back to, right? Yeah, Jenna's laughing. It's like when it happens. So a lot to come back to. So, okay, moving into the heart of the workshop, you've got that 5 moments of grace or starfish breath that you can put in your back pocket, put in your stress management toolbox. This workshop is called Stress as Your Ultimate Point of Leverage. I think that you've already noticed that my approach to this work is a little bit different. Number one, I don't use slides. I don't use PowerPoints. I don't even use the teleprompter that I thought I was going to use. I've got my printed out notes. And I don't use slides because that's a stress inducing multitasking situation that I have opted myself out of. And I'm just going to give you that invitation right there, that permission slip. If there are things around you that you think you should be doing because everyone else is doing, but it stresses you out, you are allowed to opt yourself out of that behavior. Okay. So I don't use slides because of that. And most of the people that I work with spend a lot of time in slide deck meetings because their jobs require that. And my work is a little bit different. It strikes a little bit different of a tone, a different pace, a different rhythm. And if we were actually in the room together, the lights would be softer. We'd have the windows open. We might have a candle lit. We do all kinds of things to soften up the environment and change the learning experience from the one that we're used to, which is like high tech, frenetic, lots of information coming at us fast. So one of the ways that you can actually do this in the moment is close tabs that you have open on your computer. I know it's harder to close the tabs in our brain. If you're taking notes and you have a good old fashioned pen and paper nearby, use those because that helps us process things in a really different way than doing this kind of thing. And also, you can just listen. Whoa, you can just listen and trust that you're going to get what you need. You will also have the recording. I'm going to send you a whole bunch of resources after this and more information on how we can continue to do this work together. So just trust that you're going to get what you need. I got you. The second thing that I think is a little bit different about today, you've already maybe experienced, is that I want this workshop to be a soft place to land in the midst of your otherwise probably busy day. Right? So you can show up exactly as you are, use the comments, you're already doing that, ask questions from that place, right, where you are, right? You are so not alone in feeling stressed. I know it can feel like an isolating, stigmatizing topic, like it's just me. but it's not just you. And in fact, you're in really good company. So this is a welcome space. You can be honest in the comments. I'm going to be honest with you. The more you participate and share openly, me too, the more we bring this work to life. The third thing that's a little bit different about the way I work is that I will fold in these mini experiences of embodying what I am talking about, like the 5 moments of grace that we just practiced, because only talking about stress can be really stressful. It can be really stress inducing. So we need to also do something about it, right? We need to practice something different in our time together rather than just talk about it. So thank you for your curiosity and your willingness to do this a little bit different with me today. Thank you. I know many of you. I don't know some of you. It's been some time since a lot of us were together in this kind of room anyways. So if we haven't met before, my name is Catherine Zach. I help people relax. I teach people how to understand, manage, and reduce their stress so that they can be well while they do all their things, including their best work, and be more present, awake, and connected in their everyday lives. I came to this work not because I am a naturally calm, patient, saint-like person who never yells at her kids. No, hardly, right? Not that at all. In fact, I came to this work in the first instance to solve my own stress problem. I started my career as a corporate litigator in Washington, D.C., and I could hustle and grind with the best of them. On paper, I thrived in high pressure, high stakes, fast paced, sleep when you're done kind of environments. But on the inside, I wasn't surviving, right? Definitely not thriving. So that's the truth. Stress makes it so on the outside, we can appear to be showing up and checking all the right boxes, doing the next right thing all of the time, task mastering our lives on autopilot. But on the inside, it can feel like an entirely different experience of life, right? And often it's only our closest people, like our most beloveds, that get to see that side that's not so pretty, right? And my dears, I am just like you, right? You are just like me. I am just like you. We're just like each other. I will always keep it 100 with you. As I share my research-backed, evidence-based ways to work with your stress that I've taught to thousands of people over the last decade, thousands of movers and shakers and change makers in companies and organizations and institutions all around the world, I will continue to be honest, because if I didn't, my husband would lovingly call me out. In fact, he often does. Like when we're in the car on a road trip and my precious young children are melting down and I am suddenly melting down too. And he turns to me and says, gee, I wish we knew some kind of stress expert, right? Okay, so this is what's happening. I'm still a student of this work. I'm still a lifelong student of this work. I'm doing it right alongside of you. Even as I teach it, I have to be. So to remind you, here's what we're up to today. 3 objectives. Number 1, to learn the essential difference between good and bad stress. Number 2, to learn to identify the key indicators of stress in your own body and the presence of stressors in your life, the things that kick you off into the stress response, so that you can begin to transform your relationship with stress. And I will teach you a few simple to use, easy to remember, immediately effective tools for mitigating stress in any moment that are just some of the 100 or so tools that I have included in Stress School, which I can't wait to tell you about. It's my newly relaunched 8-week mindfulness-based stress management program that I haven't offered in a very long time. And I'll tell you more about that in the aftermath of this workshop. But to begin with, we're going to start with a pop quiz. Right? And it's the pop quiz. It's actually not a pop quiz because I told you about it in the pre-work. So, you know, the reading assignment that I gave you, the research that I asked you to do, all of that. We're going to start with the pop quiz. I know you're all type A plus perfectionists too. So you've done the research, you've done the reading. I'm just going to start to randomly take you off mute and ask you the questions of the pop quiz. All right, let's see. Who am I going to start with? I'm kidding. Yes, I'm kidding. There's no pop quiz. I can see you. I can see you. I can see you. Everyone's like this. What pop quiz is she talking about? Holy cow. All right, use the comments. How did that feel? How did your body feel when I told you I was about to take you off mute and ask you pop quiz questions on stress based on the reading assignment that I never gave you? I was like, she wouldn't do that. Okay. Yeah, Heather's like, I knew you were joking. I've done this before. Okay, but what did your body feel like? How did you know that you were experiencing stress in the moment? Catfish is like, no. Eddie, I mean, my heart rate picked up as I was telling you that because it was really hard to be in that mode. Clenched my jaw. Jean clenched her jaw. Tense, shallow breaths. Yes, I held my breath. What else? And it doesn't have to be that instance. Like, how do you know that your body is in the stress response? I want you to tell me the signs. Yeah, immediately went on the defense. I assumed I was just awful at managing email and it was my fault. This is what happens, right? We're starting to get some of the physiological signs in our body that we're in a stress state, heart rate, short, tenseness of breath, shallowness. Take a moment, use your pen and paper. Not this, use this, and just write down what are some of the symptoms that you experience that lets you know that you are experiencing stress. And it's not just in the body, like Jenna said, and then I just assumed that I had gotten this wrong, right? And that is what I will call, as official terms of art, our stress stories, right? So even if it's like, then what happens when I start feeding this thing? Like, what are some of those stress stories that go off for you? I'm just gonna sip my tea and recover. And then also, has anyone already done something to start to calm that down? Like, I just laughed. Anyone else like laugh or move or do something that like, well, I'll just pause right there and say, I'm going to give you a bonus right now. I'm going to give you, so take out your pen and paper, number 1 to 7. Yeah, deepen my breath. Lenny deepened her breath. Okay, these are 7 research-backed evidence ways to take yourself out of the stress cycle and downshift back to your optimal zone. Some of you already have this list. We've done this work before. Some of us, this is new, but also you know this stuff. So I told you what I did. I just laughed, right? I laughed after it was done. So laughter is actually one of those ways. Okay. And what's like a close cousin of laughter? Put it in the comments if you know. I'll just pause and wait. Smiling, I love that. Smiling, smiling, smiling. No, the like not the distant cousin. Crying. Yeah. So number 1, not laughing. Number 2, crying. Yep. I think Lenny said it. Breathing. I took a deep breath. Breathing. Right. And someone else said, I just relaxed my shoulder. So I'm going to deepen that and say movement, right? Physical movement. That's why, like, when you're stressed and you exercise, you might feel better, right? Not a guarantee, but a way to access that downshifting. So laughing, crying, movement, breathing. What else? Anyone else have guesses? There's a lot of ways, but these are just 7. What are we doing here? Jenna's going. Connecting. Yes. We're here together. Meaningful social connection. And what did we do here aside from breathe? Touch, 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 touch. So I'm just going to pause because one of you said something really beautiful in your in your RSVP survey. That's the one that you guys all filled out to get here. And it was like, one of the questions I have about stress is that, oh my gosh, the dumpster fire of the last 2.5 years, right? Like how do I deal with the reality of the world? And like, and it's been longer than 2.5 years, but one of the things that has been happening in the last 2.5 years, of course, is like our pandemic reality in various degrees. And two of the things that are on this list were removed from us, right? Close, physical, meaningful connection and touch, right? So if you're like walking around in kind of a low grade state of like, I don't feel like as optimally good as I did in like 2019, like it's not your fault. There is a reason for this, okay? So that's an aside, but I wanted to give that to you and just say like, not just you, not just me, all of us, like this is normal. Last thing on this list of 7, anyone have an idea? It's one of my favorite things to do. And you don't even have to be good at it. Writing, but actually it's creativity. Even bad creativity. Like, you know, like I love to arrange flowers and then I look at it when I'm done, like that's I mean, they're beautiful because they're flowers, but like, oh, that's why there's professional florists. I am not a professional florist, but I love to take time to create floral arrangements. There you go. See, not so good, but creativity. So we got this list of 7. If you take one thing away from this workshop, maybe 2 things, 5 moments of grace in the list of 7 things: laughing, crying, meaningful social connection, breath, touch, creativity, movement. I think I left one off the list. 7. Yeah. Okay. So we had the pop quiz. We're going to pause. I got you into the part of your nervous system that we're all too familiar with. Yeah. And we're going to take a moment to go back into the part of the nervous system that we're maybe not so familiar with. So why don't you make yourself as comfortable as you can be? If you're sitting, you can just kind of situate yourself so that you feel a little bit more supported. You can even lie down. We spend so much of our day holding ourselves together, right? Holding it all in, keeping it nice and tight and looking good on the outside. So you can just relax on the floor if that feels better. We'll move through a couple of those things on that list. So you might just close your eyes. It helps to kind of take in less of the room around you, even if it's just the Zoom room, and bring the attention inward. I don't want to leave you hanging in that pop quiz, fight, flight, or freeze. We'll come back to a more grounded place. And you can begin to just shift your attention to the inside. You might notice the movement of your breath in your body. You might even take a hand to your chest, a hand to your belly, so you can feel that movement. And just simply notice that you are here breathing right now. You might even notice too that if you're here, it means you're probably in a safe place physically. With like warmth and a roof over your head. You've had something to eat today. You have access to food. I mean, even if it doesn't feel like that, you could say to yourself, like, right, I am here, I am breathing, I have a roof over my head, and I am all right now. I am all right now. And if your stress stories try to convince you otherwise, just check back in with this moment. Are you still breathing? Are you here? Are you all right now? You might just silently say that to yourself for the next few moments. I am all right now. I am all right now. And if your grocery list, your deadlines, your next meeting tries to convince you otherwise, see if you can just see that Acknowledge that and ask it to wait for you. And come back to that sturdy sense of I am all right now. I am all right now. And just another moment or so like that. Because we came here to do this together, go ahead, finish the breath you're on, exhale. And then inhale through your nose together. And you can even hold your breath at the very top of fullness. Maybe draw your shoulders up by your ears. And when you need to open the mouth, drop the shoulders, let go of heat, let go of the breath. Again, like that, breathe in, hold, maybe draw the shoulders up. Open the mouth, exhale. And just one more time. Deepest breath you've taken all day, inhale. And then open the mouth and let it go. Good, good, good. Okay, you can start to make your way back. You can slowly blink open your eyes. You can roll your shoulders, move your head around your neck. If you want to use the chat to just make a note of how that felt or jot it down in your notes. If you have questions about anything you felt just now, you can put it in the chat. Now we're really into it. We're not just talking about stress in the nervous system. We're experiencing, right, the full spectrum, full set of weather that our nervous systems are capable of, and ways to deal with our nervous system in real time. So now that we're all the way in, now that we're experiencing this, I'll just give you the bad news because you're already invested. Nothing I will teach you can take away stress completely. Goodbye. The good news is that you wouldn't want me to, right? Because not all stress is bad. Stress properly timed and placed in the right amounts in the right circumstances is good stress. And I don't really like that good, bad, right, or wrong language, but for now I'm using it as shorthand. It means stress that you want and need, okay? And other good news is that you can become a practical expert in your own stress. You're already doing that. It is possible to train in these skills of stress management that we're already using today so that you can begin to pause, to notice, and to name your experience of stress, both the things that cause it, how it feels in your body, how you deal with it, right? Because what we can pause and notice and name, we can begin to change, right? So that is the good news. So that equipped with a functional and foundational understanding of stress, you can start to do this work of real transformation with your relationship with stress right now. So back to stress and stress management 101. This is a very working, practical purposes explanation of stress that will help us do this work together today. So first, when we're talking about stress, we're talking about the whole body. But we begin, and for today, end with the autonomic nervous system, which is an involuntary part of our nervous system, meaning this stuff is automatic. And it contains the sympathetic nervous system. That's the fight, flight, or freeze, that feeling you felt when I put you in the pop quiz sphere. And probably the stuff that brought you here today. And also the parasympathetic part of our nervous system that governs the rest and relax response. The part that we did in the 5 moments of grace, the part we just did in the little mini exercise. This part of the nervous system, both the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, it's automatic. So much of our experience of it is happening before we even realize it. So what we're really concerned about here is when we're off to the races right? Experiencing stress in our body and wondering, what do I do about it now? Let's break this down a bit. What causes stress to happen, our nervous system to automatically kick into gear, is when our nervous system detects a threat. It could be a looming deadline. It could be the ping going off on your phone. It could be your kid falling off the swing and breaking his leg. Never happened to me, by the way. Or it could be the car in front of you slamming on your brakes, or you lying in bed at night worrying about the state of the world. All of these are interpreted by our nervous system as threats that tip off the stress response in our body. You already experienced that. That's the heart rate picking up, right? That's that clenching somewhere in your body. The stress response in our body is what happens when the nervous system detects a threat and kicks into gear, and it happens automatically and involuntarily. We might also consciously notice the threat that kicked off the thing, but our nervous system is way ahead of us. So we might be like, oh, I'm stressed, but our nervous system is already off to the races. Our nervous system is exquisitely designed and has evolved beautifully to adapt to keep us safe and alive. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here in the first place. Like, if our nervous system wasn't so exquisitely attuned and beautifully evolved, our ancestors wouldn't have made it, right? And we wouldn't have been here. The nervous system, therefore, has evolved to seek out threats. So if you feel like you're always on edge, it's not just you, it's your nervous system, right? So this is also the scientific reason why it is so hard to overhaul our stress levels, because our system was designed to look for threats, to initiate the stress response, to keep us safe and alive. It's not just you. We were all designed to be on high alert, designed to be on edge, designed to be especially attuned to the stuff that could kill us. So that's what we're working with, a nervous system and a stress response designed to be very perceptive and very easily triggered. It's just really sensitive. So when our nervous system detects a threat and it automatically activates the stress response, a series of involuntary events, a cascade of neurotransmitters and hormones go off that prepare us to fight, to flight, or to freeze. If our nervous system perceives that the threat is weaker than us, we go into fight mode, right? What that can also feel like is feelings of aggression, irritation, being easily angered, right? And quick to react. That's fight, right? If the nervous system determines that we are able to get away, like we're faster, we can outrun this threat, we go into flight mode. That's like anxiety and worry and constantly spinning out to try to get away from the thing or avoid the thing or outrun the thing that is always going to be there because it's our inbox, right? That's what the flight mode feels like. That's an emotion of flight. Or if our nervous system determines like neither is a good option, we should just lie here and play dead, that's freeze, right? And what that can feel like to us is like feelings of lethargy or procrastination or just being zoned out, numbed out, tuned out, done with the whole thing, emotionally exhausted. That's freeze, right? That's the experience of freeze in our body. So again, this is automatic. It's not something we decide. It's our nervous system deciding it for us. When it detects the threat, the cascade of hormones and neurotransmitters gets automatically triggered and our body moves into the response of fight, flight, or freeze. These are predictable responses. This is our source code as human beings. Everyone has it. So you can't outsmart it unless you know how. Okay. So without us intervening in any way, our nervous system detects the threat. It does all these things. It's off to the races, does things like release glucose so that we have more energy. It increases our heart rate so that we can run or fight. It sends blood to our fight or flight muscles, like our arms and our legs and our shoulders and our hips, which are also our computer muscles, right? So those muscles are constantly jazzed and filled with blood and ready to constrict and do the work of working for us. And we're just here like this all day, right? So it's not just sitting that's killing us, it's sitting in stress that's killing us, right? Anyone's hips sore, shoulders sore? Yeah, it's not just because you're at the computer, it's because you're at the computer in stress mode. Right? So all these things are happening. And also, this takes so much work that our nervous system starts to kind of tone down the systems of the body that we don't need in that moment, like our digestion or our reproductive system. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Like people who have digestive issues and like anyone have this experience? Yeah. Yeah. So all this is happening. And a flavor of bad stress is when we are chronically in fight, flight, or freeze mode. When our body is chronically in this state of activating this series of responses, of deviating good energy from the other systems of our body, like our immune system goes up at first, but if we stay in fight, flight, or freeze, immune system starts to go down. Anyone get sick after a big deadline has passed? Or you go on vacation? Yeah, or it's Christmas break or winter break or holiday break, and you're like, oh my God, I'm totally sick. That's it, right? It's been there the whole time brewing, but the stressor goes away. The deadline passed. You don't have to go to work for 5 days, and your body starts to downshift. And all the stuff that was like making you sick anyways that you couldn't notice, like that hits you. Right? So that is a flavor of bad stress, is when our nervous system stays chronically in this fight, flight, or freeze mode. Another flavor of bad stress is when we're tipped off, we're to the races, and the threat is not real. It's me telling you have a pop quiz. It's that thought about the thing you said to that person 7 years ago. You're lying in bed thinking about it, and your body is doing all these things, and it's not actually happening. Or it's you worrying about all the eventualities that may or may not come to pass while you're watching your kid play soccer. Right? 2 flavors of bad stress. The stress that never goes away, right? We're chronically in that heightened state. Or when we get tipped off and we don't actually need to be there. Good stress looks like well-timed stress in the right amount, in the right circumstances. I said this as people filtered into the workshop. I had all this fancy tech set up for today, including a teleprompter. And at like 11:37, I was like, I'm going to the library to print out my notes because this is really stressing me out. Good stress means that I went to the library, I printed my notes, and I came right back to the workshop. I didn't get distracted by the fact that I like could have gone to the bagel shop and gotten a sandwich and like done all these things. Good stress is a stress that helps us meet our deadlines, right? Do the things we say we're going to do. Pay our bills, pay our mortgage, pay our rent, take care of our kids. This is good stress, right? And also like in those kind of more emergent situations that our nervous system was designed to meet in the first place. You're driving, the car in front of you slams on its brakes, you've got to hit yours, right? That's good stress. We want that stress. And that's why I said I can't take away all your stress, but I can help you learn how to work with it. So this is just one side of the autonomic nervous system. We have the parasympathetic part of the nervous system. This is the part that we're a little less familiar with, most of us. This is the rest and relax and recover part of our nervous system, right? This is also a part of our nervous system that we can train in, right? We can learn the tools and techniques of relaxation and how to practice those regularly and spend more time in that downshifted part of our nervous system, or what I'll call for shorthand, the optimal zone of nervous system functioning, right? It's a baseline. It's different for all of us. It's like a window. And when we've been dealing with chronic stress or misplaced stress for too long, it affects our baseline too, right? And that's that kind of like last 2.5 years pandemic reality. Like we're like, I just don't feel as good as I did in 2017. Like in general, like I don't feel like I can get there as quickly. I don't feel like I have as much resilience and all this stuff. This is because our optimal zone has taken a hit, right? A lot of those ways that we use to downshift the nervous system back to the optimal state, we're missing. Meaningful social interaction, physical touch, things like that. So again, this is something that good news is it can get smaller, but can also get bigger, right? By regularly practicing these tools to get us there and keep us there. So this is probably not stuff that is totally new to you. Even if you've never heard these terms, you are already an expert at your own stress, right? I gave you an experience of putting you into overdrive. I had you write down the feelings of stress in your body, right? I had you write down a list of like the top 3 things that are stressing you out now or most of the time. This is self-reflective work that you can continue to do to give you the tools of becoming an actionable expert in your own stress, right? This is not hopeless for us all, right? So just this simple work of pausing long enough to reflect and understand and notice gives us good information that is like the necessary antecedent to change. The other thing we got up to today is 2 examples, 5 moments of grace and that kind of longer practice moment with the breath and the I'm all right now, kind of mantra or phrase that we repeated. That is a way to take care of the parasympathetic part of your nervous system, to train yourself to downshift and spend more time in your optimal zone. I also promised you a 3-part framework, a tool that is simple to use, easy to remember. In fact, it's impossible to remember. And this tool is like the first line of defense in the moment of bad stress when our nervous system has been tipped off and we don't need to be there, right? So this tool is one that you pull out when you're lying in bed at night, right? And you're like thinking about all the things that didn't get done today and still have to do tomorrow. And then you're already kind of cycling down in your stress spiral circle stories of, I'll never be doing enough. My efforts are not ever good enough. I'm really behind. All these things we tell ourselves. This tool is what you can use to stop that spiral, right? 3 steps, simple to use, easy to remember, actually impossible to forget because you already know it. You already know it. And we have 3 minutes left. So I'm not going to teach you the whole tool today. In fact, I'm going to put it in a recording and send it to you along with this recording. It will be audio, so you can put in your earbuds and take your walk and practice this. But I will give you the steps right now. I told you, you already know this. Stop, drop, and roll. Okay, so this is a tool you can use to override the very ancient part of your nervous system in the more recent parts of our brain, like the prefrontal cortex, and stop the stress response when you don't need it. Drop the story and the emotions and the feelings and the emotions and the stories and the stories and the emotions that help to amplify the stress response, and roll into the next moment without an agenda, without the filter, without the story. And I have to credit my 5-year-old son, Lewis, for giving me this tool. Not just because he sends me into a feeling of being on fire, which is what like misplaced stress can feel like, right? But because he loves firefighters, right? I've spent like all of his life going to the fire museum, getting fire costumes for Halloween. These things are simple and they're right in front of us. But because we have spent so much of our adulthood in a stressed world, we stop seeing them, right? We stop seeing them, but it can be simple. It can be as simple as stop, drop, and roll. And when I send you the recording later today, I want you to also remember that childlike quality. Optimal functioning of our nervous system, spending a lot of time in our sweet spot, is how we came in, right? I, like any mom, think that my kids are like the most special in the whole world. And when I watch their deep belly breaths when they're sleeping, right? When I watch their ability to have something bad happen and just move on to the next without even remembering it, like I know that they're special, but I also know that they're just like me and they're just like you. And if they're showing me that that's the natural capacity that they have, it's also ours, right? It's our birthright. Stop, drop, and roll helps me remember this. And also, like I would talk to my own kid, I say it to myself in a really gentle, tender way, because that's what this work takes, right? A little bit of grace, 5 moments, a little bit of space, build in that margin you can rest in, and like more tenderness than we usually give to ourselves. I want to honor your time. It's 1 o'clock. Trust me, it's coming. Stop, drop, and roll. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy to see old familiar faces, meet new ones. Oh, you're sweet. Jean, it's so good to have you here. Kim. Okay, you'll be hearing from me. I'm going to send you an email about stress school. I'm going to give you this recording. I'm going to give you the stop, drop, and roll. You know where to find me. And you're already doing this good work. So keep it up. Thank you. Thank you. So good to see you all. Yay. Okay, good. More to come.